Why franchise? Hi there, everyone. I'm Julie Turner with Paragon Franchise Consulting, and I'm going to continue the Why Franchise series today with a very special person. And we're going to talk about funding today. Now, that's something that often is not on the forefront of our minds. We think, oh, I'm going to start a business and it's going to be exciting. And yeah, sure, it's going to cost money, but we don't always think about the funding ends of things. So we have Mary Pang with us here today, and she's going to help us understand franchise funding and funding in general, I would imagine. So without further ado, thank you so much, Mary, for being here today.
Likewise, thank you, Julie, so much for the opportunity. It's a real pleasure to be here today.
I am so excited to talk about this subject because, like I said, so many times we talk to a prospective franchisee and they're super excited about things, but they don't realize that the funding portion kind of has to be in place before anything else can continue, before they can move forward at all. So if you're watching this right now and you're thinking, I would love to have a franchise or even just start a business, that's something that you should really be considering before anything else is looking at your funding options. So Mary is here today with us from, what is the name of your company?
I'm here with Fran Fund.
Awesome. And how long have you been with Fran Fund?
So actually today is my first year anniversary, which kind of took me by
Oh
surprise.
my goodness.
Yeah, this morning. So it's gone by very fast, but 1 year.
That is super exciting. Now, were you in the funding world before?
So I was in the franchising world total. So this also, I'm coming up
Okay.
on my 7th year in the franchising space. Before this, I was working at actually a consultant group, and I was working as kind of that liaison between the franchisors and the consultants. So I was able to see from a very very direct, clear view, what it takes to have the franchisors talking with the consultants and what that collaboration and communication needed to look like. And I certainly also got a firsthand perspective on the funding piece of how do we help people achieve their dreams of business ownership, and funding is certainly an integral part of that.
Well, and that just speaks volumes that you moved, after 6 years into something that would just support people in a different way. So that just gives me the understanding of how important that piece of the puzzle truly is. So that's brilliant. I actually, so that you guys out there know, I did not ask Mary that question before. And most of the time when you see any interview with me, it's pretty authentic because I don't have a lot of Q&A before. So, as I said, something that you've got to start thinking about right away if you want to start a business or a franchise is the funding portion of it. So, now this is to a layman completely, but my thought is that franchise would be a little bit easier to get a loan for, to get the funding for, because it has a parent company. Now, am I right about that? What does that look like from a consumer point of view if they're going to their own business versus a franchise?
Great question, Julie. And just to back up a little bit about, starting the process with thinking about funding, I just wanted to underline that even if you don't know exactly what you're going to be doing, as you continue your conversations with Julie or with different franchisors, just having an idea of what funding options are out there is really going to be helpful, so that as you do continue those conversations, let's say you do fall in love with a franchisor or just a business in general, that there is a roadmap, there is a pathway to get there. So kudos to Julie for making that point up front. Now, in regards to attaining funding for a franchise versus an independent business, I would actually say it depends. So it really depends on the lender themselves. So one thing, one really common funding strategy that folks will use is a small business loan or an SBA loan. But the SBA, the Small Business Administration, is not the one writing the loans. It really is going to come down to individual lenders, and each lender is going to behave a little bit differently. So some are really open to writing loans for small businesses. Many actually want, are a little bit risk averse, and they want a business owner that's applying for a small business loan to have maybe 2 years of business experience prior to writing them a loan, or maybe they're not familiar with the franchise model, right? So it can depend on the local bank themselves. And it is important that the lenders you're working with are, familiar with small businesses, are small business friendly, and definitely helps if they're also familiar in the franchising space. So for example, with Fran Fund, the lenders that we've built relationships with that write loans to our clients all day, every day, these are going to be lenders who aren't afraid of writing loans for startups. They don't require that a borrower necessarily comes to the table with industry experience. And they've also been educated on the different franchise brands that we work with, and they're familiar with the franchise system as a whole. So it does often become a much more seamless, just much less painful process than someone might expect if they were working with a local bank that doesn't have that level of familiarity.
That just opened up like this whole can of worms for me mentally. I'm like writing feverishly. I got to ask her this and I got to mention this. So to the person that's out there that has never, bought a franchise or even started a business for that matter, I want to kind of draw an analogy. And it's probably one that we'll be educating on as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the average person thinks, I'm going to go to Mary and she has a pot of money behind her and she's going to decide if I get it or not, just like a mortgage broker. So a lot of people think if they want to buy a house, they go to somebody and it's probably going to be a bank if they're uneducated, and they have a pot of money and they give it to them. And the fact is that just like a mortgage broker, they can actually access all kinds of pots of money for that matter. They've got all kinds of banking institutions, A lenders, B lenders that they can go to. And I'm just understanding, like I have no idea that is very much your kind of a mortgage broker for the franchise funding world, which is brilliant. So if you are watching this out right now, please, please, please let me know if you want to reach out to Mary, or just reach out to Mary. Because if you go to your bank and say, I'm going to open a franchise, and they say, oh, yeah, no, you need this and this and this, and you don't have it, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I guess I don't have it. Whereas Mary has access to all kinds of things. Am I correct? Does that make sense?
That's 100% correct. And there's a couple of reasons why it makes sense to work with someone like us. And to be clear, we're not the bank, we're not the direct lending institution, but we have access and have built relationships with those lenders. And that's good for a couple of reasons. One is, we're going to be able to give you a general overview of what SBA, what that program is going to look like as an example, as one funding strategy that we can talk about among others. But not only that, you don't have to go try and find or develop your own relationship with those lenders that are going to be small business friendly, are going to be comfortable writing or familiar with the franchise system. But not only that, every lender does behave and act a little bit differently. So some will really want to focus on the fitness space. Some might really love the pet industry. Some might be a little bit more flexible in different areas than others. So being able to access a whole group of lenders, and also being able to understand and leverage, someone like Fran Fund's relationship with them, where we know this one loves fitness, this one loves pets, right? This one likes to, kind of play in the QSR space, whatever it looks like. We're able to really shop your loan request with the appropriate lender, and also that makes sure that you as the borrower, you as the client, are getting the best term sheets and rates and offers available.
Fabulous. I just love that. I get excited about things like this. And it's mostly the thing that excites me is the average person out there doesn't know. We are not educated in these types of areas. For a billion years, I've been coaching, and one of the things I love to coach on is the things we should have learned in school. And this is one of them. This is, the fact that people are so debt averse. Like, I won't even get into that subject because it would take us all day. What I do want to point out is you have mentioned SBA. Now, some of my audience is Canadian. Some of them are E2 visa applicants. They want to buy a business in the States or in Canada. You can get an E2 visa either way. And are you someone that can support a citizen from another country getting a loan in the US for their business?
That is a great question and one to be aware of. So if someone is not a US citizen or not a green card holder, we would unfortunately not have any funding programs to offer them as an individual. Now, the way around that, the solution to that is if, let's say, you are someone in Canada and you're looking to obtain funding, through an SBA loan or some other US program, you would just need to have a partner who is a US citizen or a green card holder and has 51% or more, majority ownership in the business itself. Now, I do want to clarify that if someone is a US citizen or a green card holder and they're looking to open up a business in Canada, we certainly can help with that all day long.
Okay.
The E2 visa, we do get that a lot. So, we get that question a lot. And so that with an E2 visa, the qualifications are the exact opposite of what the SBA wants to see. And so essentially, those two programs just don't really work. They just don't talk to each other, essentially.
Right.
So,
And that makes sense from what I know of the E2 visa. For those of you watching, we have this second to educate on E2 visa as well. The E2 visa is you can move to another country. I believe the window is for 2 years or 5 years, depending on the country and the visa. But what they want is to show proof that you are going back to your country of origin, whereas the SBA loan would probably want more of a foundation and structure within the US to even be interested.
correct.
Awesome. Well, that is really exciting. I think you just opened up a whole bunch of more questions for people. If you're willing, I would love to have you back and we'll do just a Q&A. We'll do a Q&A about funding and I'll just collect all of the questions that you guys are going to send me because you're watching right now and you're like, I have questions. So please send us the questions and I will ask Mary on our next video.
I would love
Sound
that.
good?
I would love that.
That's
I would love that opportunity.
wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Mary.
Thank you
And
so much for the
you guys
opportunity.
out there watching. Absolutely. Now, Mary, I would love them to just be able to reach out to you. So is there a way that they can do that? An email address, a phone number, something to make their life a little bit simpler? But you got to mention that you saw this video.
Certainly, absolutely. So I would love to chat with anyone that has any questions. My email is probably the best way to reach me. And I can say it here. I can also send it to you, Julie, if that's helpful.
Perfect.
But it's mpang, P-A-N-G, as you can see in my little screen. So mpang at grantfund.com.
Perfect. All right, guys, reach out anytime. Always remember, my services are complimentary but priceless. So reach out. Can't wait to hear from you. And thank you so much, Mary, for your time today.
Thank you as well, Julie.